We really have something special for everybody for the last session of our multi-day event. We're going to really dive into the power of youth culture, how that impacts marketing, what they're doing to disrupt the industry, and what us as marketers should be thinking about when we do that. Do a quick little bit of introduction. So my name is Jason Adelman, based in Los Angeles. I co-lead the Brand Innovators strategy group, and there's a lot of people I see here in the audience who are very involved in the strategy group, and essentially we are the in-house consulting and advisory arm of Brand Innovators. We help a lot of the senior marketers in our community navigate the complexities of the media, tech, and agency marketplace and help them find really great best-in-class partners. And I'm happy here to represent the team and represent Brand Innovators. We also have Ben Harms.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well.
Hailing from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes, the epicenter of progressive culture.
Exactly.
Calls it. Yeah.
And Ben is the Chief Growth Officer and former founder, correct?
Co-founder. Yeah, partner.
Yep, of Archival. And we also have Tressie Lieberman, CMO of Yahoo. So let's give a round of applause for this amazing group.
Hello, hi everybody. Hello.
Yeah,
all right.
There we go. So Ben, first, I'd love to hear more about your company and where do you sit within the agency landscape? Why are companies coming to you? What problems do you help them solve for? And how should they be thinking about the world of youth marketing today?
Love it. Yeah, so we're Archrival. We're a youth culture agency, and ultimately we help brands win the hearts and minds of a new generation of consumers. And where that really actually unlocks power is when you think about any shift that really happens in culture. So many of them start with the energy of young people. They're the first to adopt a new platform. They're the first to try a new product. They're the first to challenge the cultural norms that we have, jump on new ways of thinking about media. And what that does is it propels so much of culture forward. And we see it time and time again. That when you win young consumers, even older users who've been a part of something, like Adidas is a client that we've worked with for the last decade, there's always this fear of like alienating older, when you really focus and if you build the right smart audience segmentation strategy on young people, you're not going to lose those who have been with you for a long time. They actually feed off of that young energy, like they're a part of the next thing, that there's something in it youthful for them. So for us, we help brands, both really, really cool brands, try to stay ahead of culture, like the Adidas, the Spotify, Red Bull, and then brands who maybe are like re-entering a market or entering for the first time or trying to reinvent themselves, all kind of connect into youth culture. So for us, it's all about helping brands solve that problem, and which is, for us, been very strategic. It's a differentiator. There's a billion agencies out there, but not a ton that really have built themselves around understanding where youth culture is going and really helping brands tap into that.
Sweet, I love it. Very necessary. And so Tressie, happy belated International Women's Day. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And so you've had a very accomplished career, most notably really catapulting Chipotle into the orbit. I mean, amazing success. And then most recently deciding to leap into a legacy tech company as its new CMO of Yahoo. Can you share a little bit about what that decision was all about and what do you think the potential is for Yahoo?
Yeah, okay, I'm having an absolute blast. I have the best job. Yahoo is a brand that has been around for a long time, 30 years, and it has hundreds of millions of people who are still very passionate about it. But it's not as top of mind as it could be. It doesn't have that relevance and the connection that I've loved to see in other brands, and I believe that we can bring that energy back. So we're all about getting the Yahoo magic back. And it's not just brand Yahoo, it's Yahoo Finance, Yahoo News, Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Fantasy. We've got AOL. I mean, there's a lot of different brands under the Yahoo family. And so thinking about how we can really unlock that latent love with our current customers, but also bring along the next generation, hence this panel, thinking about how we become the brand that Gen Z is excited about, that they're talking about, Gen Alpha. I mean, like my son is 7, he's already in a Yahoo Fantasy League. So it's not even just thinking about Gen Z, it's reaching people when they're making decisions to be a part of one of our different properties. So it's an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Incredible people, a brand that is still loved today, but just needs a little bit of a little bit of love.
Yeah,
a little more love.
I love that. And, Yahoo for me represents the platform where I, for some reason, come in last place every single year in my football pool. Not sure why, because I think I'm relatively educated on football.
Okay, Fantasy Plus can help you with that.
Yeah, that I can use some love. And also, I don't know, but raise your hand if you're always fixing your parents' computer. For some reason, they have problems every couple months. I haven't had a problem ever on my computers. And the first thing my father says is, where's the Yahoo Finance button? Tab. Okay, that's his thing. Love so him. You have my father. How do we get the youth, right? Yeah. So a lot of people are saying that this traditional full funnel marketing mix has been broken by the habits, attitudes, actions of Gen Z. If that's the case, how in the world do we reach them? There's so many choices, and they're so finicky, but loyal. What are the things that we need to be thinking about as both a tech company, content company, and also all the brands that you help foster think about capturing their attention?
Great question. Let me take, okay, all right. We hear this from marketers all the time, is that the old models are just struggling to work. So much of it was built on this sort of linear progression, right? Of if you do a campaign that does X, and we can plan it a year out, and then it'll move people into Y, and they'll start to be aware of who we are, and then eventually we'll get them to do the right clicks, and then they're in, right? But the reality is we know how fast culture moves, and that idea of it all being linear, we've known for a while now, that just, it's broke. It just doesn't work that way. Culture moves so fast and trends change so quickly. For us as an agency, about a decade ago, we really started digging into the idea of trust, because you could feel it start to shift in culture. And we've really seen that change happen. We actually just launched a new study called The Funnel's Fucked. Sorry if I'm not supposed to say that out loud. And it talks about this idea of where trends and where new innovation and culture really comes from. And what was fascinating, so I'm a millennial, elder millennial, and in just a period of a few years, we've seen this huge seismic shift, and that 51% of Gen Z is saying trends and the change in culture, it comes from people like me. But only 30-some% of millennials agree with that, because the inverse is also crazy. Over half of millennials say that trends come from brands, but only 15% of Gen Z agree with that. So this massive power dynamic has shifted, where so much used to come from the top down, whether that's cultural institutions, politicians, brands, it used to just come from the top, and now it's all coming from bottom up. So for us, the way we really look at that is helping brands build strategies that build what we call brand communities. It's how do you build a rich connection where you're co-creating who your brand is, where your product's going, how to talk about your product with culture. So it's not just you saying, hey, this is how you do it. And that was the old model was sort of get into our world. And now it's how do we just hop in the car with where they want to go and authentically connect with them and offer them more value along the way. That's where so much loyalty starts to get birthed.
And that's got to be super exciting for you, Tressie, right? So you've built that community in previous roles, and now being able to bring it into a new tech company, for a new opportunity for you at a tech company, that's got to be super exciting to understand how to build community, right? You have communities of users, you have communities of ambassadors, you have fans, and everyone engages with brands in a different way. Is that one of the biggest things that's on your mind when building out the Yahoo brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the best advertising comes from consumers. And so everything we do is thinking about how we create a conversation. If we were looking at, a great out-of-home placement or a social post or a brand action, we just activated yesterday with Pool Suite at our first, time showing up at South by in a very long time. And it's all about creating a conversation, and that is the marketing. So for us, we look at all the different pockets of community, and we're thinking about how we are going to activate the latent love, really get people to not just be a part of Yahoo, but talk about it, talk proudly about it, not be ashamed to say what type of email address they use, but be confident in that, and so I think we got to get our confidence and our swagger back, and that comes from thinking like a human, right? And so when the best advertising and marketing is coming from creators, we need to think of ourselves as creators, and so the simplest form, we just have to be human and relatable. And I think that the marketing that helps people feel seen, when you see a post or an idea and you go, oh, that's so me. we have hundreds of millions of people who are Yahoos. How do we get them to feel seen in our work? And so everything we do is really leaning into that and starting to turn the conversation around the brands.
I'm going to play off of that for just a second. Before Tressie and I became friends, I was speaking at another conference, and there was a panel of Gen Zs, this is a couple years ago, and they asked the question, like, what brands do you look up to? And every one of them, these are brilliant Gen Zs, they were all founders, startups, nonprofits, all sorts of things. And every one of them listed a fast food brand or a fast casual brand. Chipotle and Taco Bell were both on the list. I haven't told her this story yet. But it was also like KFC and Wendy's. All 5 people on the panel. And then everyone was like, wait, what? And the reason when they dug into it was like, they're human. They relate to us. They talk our language. They're not afraid of like kind of being dumb and like screwing up every once in a while. And they just felt so seen by these brands who were able to really step into the conversation with them and not be like, we're a brand, you don't understand culture. It was more like, no, you drive the conversation. We'll just like kind of come along for the ride. And it was super fascinating to see. And that sparked, again, for me, this like drive to help brands figure out how to authentically do that in a way that really does build that relationship in a very human sort of way. So props, by the way, on that.
Okay, so this is a perfect transition because I want to dive a little bit deeper into the power of youth culture. And so the traditional media landscape, right, freaking out, cord cutters, oh my God, audiences not watching as much linear television, or they are, and then they're going to see TV, but then they're also playing Roblox, and they're gaming, and they're on their phone, and it's a 3-screen environment, and people are freaking out. I'd say, no, opportunity. Yeah. Right? So how do we take youth culture and turn it into the opportunity into a new fragmented media landscape? And what are your thoughts on that? Like, should we be freaking out, or should we be really embracing it and saying, actually, the opportunity is now, let's embrace some new strategies?
Yeah, I mean, what a time to be alive. Yes. Like, this is the best time to be a marketer because you don't have to just have enormous budgets. You need creativity. Yeah. And I know we're talking so much about AI, but to me, we win with the creativity. It's never been about looking deep into, and apologies if there's like a social platform in the audience that does listening tools. Listening tools are important, but to me, the best ideas have come from the little nuggets of reading the comments and looking for moments around the brand and culture that are uniquely relevant to you. And when you find those, you just go all in, because the consumer is in control in so many ways. And if you can tap into that, tap into the community and build that passion, your work is going to go so much further than if you would have a traditional approach. So the way I look at it, I call it the Moneyball approach. Like, we can't play the same game as everybody else. We have to think differently about getting our work to break through, because I'm competing against a lot of really massive companies. I don't have the same media budget. So every idea starts with social and culture at the core. So we come from a place of earned and from our own channels, and then think about how we amplify the things that are working. And you put a lot of things out in the world, you experiment, and if it's working, lean in, and if it's not, you move on. You don't obsess about it. We have a marketing calendar, but we are very fluid in how we're approaching it and building the right team and org to be able to deliver on that. So I think that, don't think about the fear. Be a first mover, experiment, learn, and you're always going to get smarter when you have that mindset of learning, because that's what's going to help you keep getting better.
We're going to have Tressie t-shirts downstairs. Don't think about the fear. Be a first mover. You can have it on the front or the back, available downstairs. I mean, right?
That's a great quote.
That's a great quote.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, preach. There's not a whole lot to add to that other than for us, it's all about helping build those really smart strategies that can do what Tressie just explained, which is be way more agile than in the past. I actually spent a few years brand side with a global fashion brand, and part of what was so hard was the archaic nature of so many of the, whether it's both product, but also the like sort of static, linear calendars of fashion weeks, et cetera, when culture moves so much faster. So it's like, what's the core of your brand that you really feel is most energizing to a new generation of consumers? And how do you take that and then build a strategy that truly allows you? The one thing about Web3 I love is the idea of decentralizing yourself. Moving from highly planned calendars to like smart strategies that can be very, very in the moment and actually we build a lot of brand communities that help brands do that can step into the conversation in an instant. So to us, it's about like understanding the core of your brand and then building a really smart strategy that really unlocks the power of what Tressie just talked about, because I think that's exactly where brands need to play today. And I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, forget the old way of thinking about it. Like, it's so fun right now to be helping brands jump into culture.
You both use insights in your own unique ways to uncover the strategies that you employ. I'm going to throw a question that we didn't rehearse, which was, what is most misunderstood about the Gen Z consumer today by marketers from your experience? Good or not as good?
Yeah, I would say the one that comes up a lot for us is that Gen Z's not loyal. They just hop from brand to brand and thing to thing, and like, you can't really get loyalty. When you think about our parents' generation, it's like, yeah, I bought a Chevy and I drive Chevys for the rest of my life kind of thing, right? Where with Gen Z, it's sort of this they're not loyal to anything. And I would actually challenge that to say they're actually really loyal, but they're loyal to a different set of values. It's not about consistency. It's not about sort of the same old thing. They're loyal to brands who are willing to innovate and willing to challenge themselves, admit that they're like wrong sometimes, like feel more human. So the thing for us is we try to figure out what are those sort of unlocks that really can connect young people to your brand. I think it was like 46% in a recent study we did said that young people, Gen Z particularly, are actually committed and loyal to a brand that they have zero intent to purchase from. And it's all about that relationship, that reciprocal sort of, we're going to co-create the future together and constantly be open to new and fresh and different. And when you can do that, you'll win their loyalty over for a really long period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many generalities about generations. Everybody wants to put everybody in buckets, and every presentation has the same 5 things that are the same about Gen Z. And I think as a marketer, you can win when you're looking for the space in between. What is everybody not talking about that exists? And a lot of our learnings are coming from connecting directly with Gen Z, you know, and I love that we are in a world where you don't go into a presentation with an agency and it's the same, like the leadership coming in and sharing the work from the team, when you're actually hearing directly from Gen Z themselves, or they're on your team. I've tried to surround myself with truth tellers, you know, like I just had a meeting last week, or kicking off a lot of the brand work, and I'm like, we fail. If you see something, say something. You know, how many times has something launched and maybe you've been in this situation where you're like, oh, I knew that wasn't going to do well. And everybody's having that behind the scenes debate. I'm like, that's our job, is to come in and tell the truth. And I do love that about Gen Z. Like, they are not going to lean back and just let things happen. Like, sometimes maybe a little too much, because I'm like bombarded with all the team being like, why would we do that? It's a terrible idea. But I love that I can be around people who will call me on that and make sure that we're going in the right direction and that the work feels relevant. So I think keep talking to Gen Z, looking for the white space opportunities. They're human, not just, you know, a generation with a label. Yeah. So.
That's great. And as someone like myself who's on the younger end of Gen Z, I really support that. This is a terrific, let's build upon this. Let's talk a little bit more about what you're looking to build. You're in building mode at Yahoo, which is really exciting. Talk about the things that marketing leaders should be thinking about when building out their teams, who should be around them. Talk about, you know, the importance of healthy internal culture as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think our mission is really clear at Yahoo. We're regaining relevance and driving growth. You know, and I come from a background in the restaurant industry where we talked about this concept of build a brand over time, but drive the sales overnight. You know, you want to be thinking about everything you do builds that brand bank, but you need to get action. You need people to, you know, go buy tacos. But for us, it's getting people to download our app, getting them to our website, and just being top of mind. A lot of people are actually going to Yahoo properties, but maybe they're not making the connection that, oh yeah, that was a Yahoo news story. So creating that relationship with the brand. How we're doing it is building up the right org structure is a key part of it, building our foundation, making sure that we can move at the speed of culture. You know, I call it like the Taylor Swift moment. If Taylor Swift tweeted about your brand or connected with the product, are you ready to respond? And I would say that, you know, when I came in, we weren't ready to do that. And so building up the right team to be connected to culture, to be obsessed with the consumer, to understand the opportunities to create conversation, and not just hear it, but act on it. It's hard. It's hard to be brave to have an idea and get it into the world quickly. The Pull Suite South by Southwest activation that we did yesterday, our party, which I hope a lot of you got to attend, we pulled that together, from start to execution in 6 weeks for a massive event. And I think creating that hunger in the team to just want to get out there and learn and try, it was such a huge moment for us to see it come to life and have it be such a success, because you got to get out there. So I'm building that process, that culture. We want to be the most creative, collaborative, connected team in the world. We're remote, so I want us to be able to do work that we can prove that a remote environment still breeds great creativity. But it doesn't just happen. We have to be really intentional about it. And so I've built an incredible marketing leadership team that's working together to build the future. It's fun.
Can you build on the importance of the partners that you have had or have now, the working with partners to respond to external moments, right? Like you said, you got to have that structure built within your key agency partners.
Yeah.
You guys have to be all rowing in the same direction.
Absolutely. Like I see day one, people here, day one's a huge part of how we operate. I have a very deep belief that agency partners are not even just partners, they're the team. And so the way that we operate is one team, one dream. There is no pointing fingers. I always use the example, like, if we're going to have a can entry, we're all on it, let's not worry about that. Let's just have fun in the building process. And being fortunate to get to the end of, a few different brands I worked on that became very successful, I learned in that, don't wait for the victory and the awards and, the success, the sales success of the organization. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy every single day, because it's not about an end game. Like, there is no end game in marketing, you got to keep getting up every day, learning. There's a new trend happening. There's a new product or platform launching, a new tech thing you need to understand. So don't think that this is going to have an end. Just have fun and enjoy it. So I also like to surround ourselves with partners who are highly collaborative and are going to have fun and make this an enjoyable experience, because there's been a lot of time doing it. So it should feel great. And I think a lot of my job is setting that tone for people and hiring the right type of people, whether it's partners or internally, who are going to, I think Adam Grant calls it the team of humble stars. And I love that. It's like, who wants to come together, leave your ego at the door, and do work that we hope to be like, in a textbook someday because it changed the industry? Like, let's do that. Why would we want to show up and do the ordinary? Right. So you got to find those right people. I'm lucky to have those people around me.
Yeah. Ben, a lot of your clients are like at the heart of pop culture. You work with a lot of sneaker brands and apparel companies, and with that goes a lot of partnerships with athletes, musicians. How do you work with your clients when responding to those big external moments that you really have to either respond to in a way that protects the brand, right, or also keeps the trust going with the consumer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So much of it for us is about trust in that relationship. Tressie said it really, really well. It's about being partners on the same team. And so for us, it's about doing the right setup out of the gate. So example being, we're doing a ton of work for Tinder right now around building a grassroots sort of US strategy for them. And so much of that is making sure that the team that is going to be executing that is at the table early and often with them, and that we really understand and live and breathe their brand. We are in it with them. And so when it comes time to like, oh, this moment just happened, who can we like pull in and have a conversation with, we can act really, really quickly on their behalf. Where it gets really tough is like, oh, that's going to take 4 approvals up the chain, and by then the moment's gone, right? And are they even going to understand like a certain exec who's not in the day-to-day of what that team is thinking and dreaming of? So for us, it's all about building really strong relationships with our clients to where we live and breathe and think on behalf of their brand. We soak ourselves in it, we buy it, we wear it, we use it, right? Like whatever it is that they do, so we can understand their core consumer and what it's like to step into their shoes. And then it's building that trust and together creating that expertise with them as a partner so that we can all just move really, really quickly and in tune with culture at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really important point too, and why I like doing the small bets, because if you want to do cool things, you do have to think about the executive team and how you're going to bring people along. Like that is a good outcome or a bad outcome. If you can't get things out in the world, then what's the point? And it also is very deflating to the team if they're continually ideating and don't see their work in light right across all the teams from agency partners to internal people. So I like to get a broad set of ideas in with the executive team and show them how we're working. Be like, hey, what are we going to kill? What do we keep? Let people have a part in that and understand it. And then you have to be the PR person for the work the team is doing. I mean, I was up this morning sending highlights of our event yesterday and all of the different posts that came out of it, people talking about it to our executive team, like, hey, look what people are saying about our event. And you have to do that. You can't assume that people are interested in what you're doing or following it. Like, you've got to be that PR person, and that gets you the trust that you're talking about to be able to keep doing things and do bigger things with it.
It's like
time.
The goal ultimately is to win with culture. But to get there, half the battle is just making sure everyone internally understands where you're going. And to Tressie's point, like, we'll win or lose based on how well we can help our partners actually sell it in. Whether it's like to counterparts who may have totally different objectives than our clients do, but they're part of that decision-making team, or up the chain down, like getting their teams bought in. So being a great agency partner, having been able to spend a few years brand side, that was a huge eye-opener for me. Is the majority of the work on brand side, maybe not majority, but a ton of it is actually just selling in that trust and that confidence in where you're going, to where you can get that green light, to where everything is not going up the chain 7 layers and constantly being challenged. So, yeah.
That's great. So I'm going to open it up to questions in 2 minutes. So get your questions ready. A quick pivot here. Yahoo, obviously a consumer tech company, but also a B2B company. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how is Yahoo positioning itself or wanting to position itself with the advertisers to stand up the platform. What should the advertising community be thinking about when thinking about partnering with Yahoo?
Yeah, when I think about our audiences at a very high level, we have our core community of people who are using Yahoo today, growth opportunity, and our advertising partners. That's how we generate revenue. And a lot of the work we're doing on rebuilding the brand, that also brings along the advertising community, right? Like, the best situation is not us having to go tell someone what Yahoo's up to, but then coming to us and saying, I've been hearing a lot of cool things about Yahoo. Like, what's going on over there? I want to be a part of that. So I think the work we're doing on brand does so much for our advertisers. The other thing is, I come from a very consumer background in marketing, and I'm trying to apply the same thinking to advertising community, which is, we're just humans. Yeah. If we're planning an event, why would we plan the one differently for clients than consumers? Why should the consumer one be super fun and like really engaging and interesting with every single thing we're doing, and the B2B one be serious? Because you know what? Clients and advertisers want to have fun too. Yep. Why do we have to talk to them like advertisers? And so I think it's actually maybe a good thing that I don't necessarily have a deep background there, because I can bring in a different level of thinking. We've had an incredible party at CES this year, and our whole brief was around Yahoo Hits Different. We showed up with the Wu-Tang Clan, and like, it was awesome. I think everybody there had an incredible time, and we're just reframing the conversation. Now, there's also incredible products that we have within Yahoo, like our Yahoo DSP. So I think about that as a product, just as I do Yahoo Fantasy, and how do we pull out the interesting features in a way that people want to learn about and talk about. Because I know, I've been on the client side for a long time, like, just to get a meeting, you know, why do I want to give my time to this? So I always ask for the consumer, why would I care? Why would I share? And I'm like kind of a broken record about those 2 questions when I review creative or a media plan. Why would I care? Why would I share? Same thing with an advertising community. Like, why would I care about this? Why do I want to pay attention when I'm bombarded with so much information? So we're as focused, you know, equal path, core consumer for us when we think about B2B. And the cool thing is, our partners love Yahoo advertising, and they're so happy with what we're doing. So same thing, like, how do I activate them and get them talking about their love of Yahoo products, just as I want our consumers talking about their love. So they're very connected, and massive opportunity for us.
That's awesome. Obviously, the enthusiasm is here on full display on this stage. Stay youthful, right? That's the method. That's the message here. Questions from the audience for this wonderful panel? Yes, in the back.
Hi, Hi there. Thanks for this panel. Roxy Fata from Art Blocks. I guess my question is twofold. In the good old days, there were very few ways of speaking to people. Now there's a million touch points, especially for the younger generation. What are the top 2 things that you think are the must-dos to kind of reach them, whether it be where you're reaching them or how? And then what does success look like? Are they converting? Is it more about people getting aware and having conversations?
Good.
Okay. Great question. Thank you. In terms of the top 2 things I would say, one, know your audience. Like, who are you actually trying to talk to? And where is there a really strong intersection between the product that you have and offer the world and what people are looking for? So to me, it always starts with understanding your brand and then building a really smart strategy that has the right consumer segmentation built into that, because then you'll unlock, I think where you're really going with the question is like, where do you show up, right? So there may be certain products where like a Reddit subgroup is like, oh, chef's kiss, because it's so relevant and it's so deep, and their ability to share what you offer goes so far. I think about their product, like fantasy football. Like, I'm going to go show up and talk about that in a very different place, right, than I will any number of other products, Yahoo Finance, whatever. So it's all about having a really smart strategy and then understanding that channel landscape to really meaningfully engage and meet them on their turf. And then to answer your second question, as a part of that, success then to us really, it does come back to like, what's the ultimate goal? If it's moving the needle on product, so often we'll get these really vague briefs of like, make us go viral. And it's like, yeah, cool, but at the end of the day, what do you actually need to do? Oh, we need to sell sneakers. Okay, that's a very different proposition that we need to solve for. So I think it comes back to like, what's the ultimate objective? And then how do we build the smartest system of understanding how to move that lever, how to measure that lever, and then ultimately report back on, did it work? And if not, what do we change for next time?
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, and then experiment. You know, you might narrow it down to, okay, these are 5 interesting channels for us. Try all 5 and see what works and eliminate the ones that don't. And then when you're starting to get signals, lean into what is working. And then, you know, obviously along the way, you're measuring everything to help inform where you go next. But I've always been a big fan of having a learning agenda. You know, the KPIs are on there. We know what we're trying to achieve. But it's not, especially when you're new and you're building, like I am right now, if I'm just like, here are KPIs, oh, we missed it, there, let's kill that media buy, that's not going to help us. We need to learn to inform where we're going. So I have always been a big believer in just the language. You know, saying the word learning internally versus we're going to hit these numbers opens people up to trying and feeling like it's safe to fail, in quotes, because I don't really look at it as a failure, but an opportunity.
I think we have time for one more question right here in the white.
Hello, thank you. Tressie, I loved your mention of like being ready for a Taylor Swift moment. Such a great way to coin that momentum and capability. You mentioned that prior to you joining Yahoo, they were not ready to be able to handle something like that. What are some of the tactical strategies or changes you've implemented internally to get you and your team ready to be able to respond to something like that?
Yeah, I'll give you some tactical examples that maybe anybody could apply. One, super basic, is creating the conversation on Slack. Like channels for inspiration. What are you seeing out there? What are you hearing? Encouraging the entire team, regardless of what role they have, to weigh in on that. Even we have an open house channel, which is our whole company in there, and people are sharing ads that they find interesting, and I'll jump in that conversation with them. But I think my team knows. I really expect everybody to have their ear to the ground in culture, and great ideas can come from anywhere. We have a daily call that we're standing up, and I've had this at my last 2 jobs as well, where you just get the right people on the phone. What are we hearing, and is there something we need to act on or not? Just like being in the rhythm where you have that time dedicated to connect as a team is really helpful. And then you have to have the experts. This is bringing in community managers, bringing in the right social team, bringing in the right influencer leads. All of those groups have to be working together. So we've spent a lot of time building that world-class organization, whether it's internally or with partners who can help us level up and be ready ready to respond. Because, if a moment happens, like 10 minutes can make all the difference. You got to have the legal team set up. That's a huge one. Legal's been a massive unlock to being able to get things done. If you don't have that relationship, you can have the best idea and it's never going anywhere. So you got to build the relationship cross-functionally with all those core partners. At Chipotle would be working with operations, if there's a menu idea, right? So know who your team of the Avengers are that are going to allow you to get out in culture and be intentional about building that team.
So that comes to an end for our 4-day program in Austin. I want to thank this amazing panel. Thank you so much.
Yahoo!
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.